Elias Cade never planned to become important. He was not a soldier, not a commander, not even a famous explorer. He was simply a human liaison, one of many sent by Earth to help smooth communication between humans and the wider galaxy. His job was to listen, explain, translate emotions when words failed, and make sure no one accidentally offended a species that could vaporize a city if misunderstood. The station where he worked hung in deep space like a silent jewel. Ships from dozens of species came and went every day, their shapes strange and beautiful, their crews stranger still. Elias had learned long ago that staring was rude, even if some beings had 6 eyes or bodies made of light. He had learned to speak slowly, keep his hands visible, and never assume anything was universal. Still, the galaxy often assumed things about humans. They assumed humans were weak because they lacked claws and thick armor. They assumed humans were simple because they laughed easily and spoke emotionally. They assumed humans bonded too fast, trusted too quickly, and cared too deeply. Elias heard these things said politely, with smiles and calm voices, but he heard them all the same. He did not argue, he only worked. Valith was not like the others. She belonged to a species known across the galaxy for their calm minds and perfect control. They were old, powerful, and frightening in a quiet way. Their ships were sleek and precise. Their technology worked without waste. Their warriors, it was said, could plan a battle down to the last heartbeat. They rarely spoke to outsiders unless necessary. When Elias was assigned to act as cultural support for Valith during her stay on the station, several officials warned him to be careful. Her species valued distance. Personal questions were forbidden. Emotional displays were uncomfortable for them. Elias nodded and followed the rules. At first, Valith was tall and slender, her skin smooth and pale with faint lines that glowed softly when she thought deeply. Her eyes were dark and reflective, giving the feeling that she was always watching more than she showed. Her voice was calm, measured, never rushed. Their early meetings were formal. They discussed schedules, protocols, shared space rules. Elias explained human habits. Valith listened without comment. But over time, something shifted. She began asking questions that were not required, simple ones at first. Why humans decorated their private rooms, why they shared meals instead of eating alone, why they used names so freely. Elias answered honestly. Because it feels good, he said once. Because being alone too much hurts. Valith had been silent for a long time after that. Their conversations grew longer. Sometimes they spoke about history, sometimes about fears. Elias found himself laughing more than he meant to. Valith listened, her glowing lines brightening slightly, though she never laughed herself. One cycle, after a long diplomatic meeting that left Elias tired and frustrated, Valith stayed behind when the others left. The room felt too quiet. "You are distressed," she said. "I'm fine," Elias replied automatically. She tilted her head. "That is untrue," he sighed. "Humans say that when they don't want to explain." "Explain," Valith said. He did. He spoke about the pressure of representing an entire species that was still seen as small. He spoke about how humans tried so hard to be liked, to belong, to prove they mattered. He spoke about fear, fear that one wrong move could end everything. Valith listened without interruption. When he finished, he felt exposed, embarrassed. He waited for polite silence or dismissal. Instead, Valith did something unexpected. She stepped closer. "You should not have told me this," she said quietly. Elias felt his stomach drop. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean." "I am not displeased," she interrupted. "But this knowledge has consequences," he frowned. "What kind of consequences?" She studied him for a long moment as if measuring something invisible. The glow on her skin pulsed slowly. "My species does not form emotional attachments," she said. "We consider them dangerous." "Okay," Elias said carefully. "We bond once," she continued. "In an entire lifetime." Elias blinked. "Like marriage?" "No," she said. "It is not a social construct. It is biological, neurological. When the bond forms, the bonded individual becomes central. Their safety, their emotional state, their continued existence becomes a priority above all else. Elias laughed nervously. That sounds intense. It is forbidden, Valeth said. The words settled heavily between them. Elias straightened. Then why are you telling me? Her voice softened, because it has already happened. The air felt thick. Elias' mind struggled to catch up. I don't understand. Valeth met his eyes. I have bonded. His heart began to race. With who? With you. The words were calm. The effect was not. Elias took a step back, almost tripping. That's not possible. I didn't do anything. I didn't agree to. You did not cause this, Valeth said. Nor did you choose it. Neither did I. Then what does it mean? He asked. It means, she said, that your well-being is now tied to my species' core instincts. Elias felt cold. Valeth, this could cause problems, big ones. Yes, she agreed. Your people, if they find out, they will, she said. They already sense the change in me. Elias ran a hand through his hair. This is insane. Insane implies error, Valeth replied. This is evolution. He stared at her, searching for fear, regret, anger. He found none, only certainty. Why me? He asked quietly. Valeth considered. Humans connect without hesitation. You speak openly. You offer comfort without expectation. You accept others without needing control. My species has never encountered this before. That doesn't mean I should be this, Elias said. To us, she said, it does. Silence filled the room again, heavier than before. What happens now? Elias asked. Valeth stepped closer, lowering her voice. Now I protect you. I didn't ask for protection. You did not ask to exist, she said simply. Yet here you are. Alarms sounded faintly in the distance, the normal rhythm of the station. But to Elias, everything felt unreal, as if the universe had quietly shifted around him. If someone threatens you, Valeth continued, my people will respond. How? He asked. She paused. Just for a fraction of a second. Completely. Elias swallowed. He thought of Earth, of humans laughing, arguing, forming friendships in days and families in months. He thought of how easily humans cared and how often that care was dismissed as weakness. He looked at Valeth, at the calm power behind her stillness. Valeth, he said, this bond, does it hurt you? Her glow dimmed slightly. Change is uncomfortable, but loss would be worse. That night, Elias lay awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. His communicator buzzed with routine updates, unaware that anything had changed. But everything had. Somewhere beyond the station, an ancient species was awakening instincts it had buried for millennia. And at the center of it all was a human who had only ever wanted to help people understand each other. The galaxy had no idea what it had just allowed to happen, and neither did Elias Cade. The change did not announce itself with alarms or official messages. It arrived quietly, like a pressure shift no one noticed until it became impossible to ignore. Valeth began receiving communications more often. At first, Elias thought nothing of it. Important diplomats always stayed busy. But he noticed how her posture changed when certain messages arrived, how the soft glow along her skin sharpened and held steady longer than before. Something was moving beneath the calm surface. Elias continued his work, but the station felt different now. He caught people watching him, other species, station officials, even humans. No one said anything, but the looks lingered too long to be coincidence. Rumors traveled faster than ships. A human technician stopped Elias in the corridor one cycle, lowering his voice. Hey, you okay? Yeah, Elias said. Why? The man hesitated. People are saying you're important to them. Elias forced a smile. People say a lot of things, but the rumors kept growing. A minor trade dispute was resolved in hours instead of weeks when Valeth's people quietly applied pressure. A patrol fleet changed course without explanation, placing itself closer to the station. Long-standing negotiations suddenly reopened. Every shift bent toward Elias without ever naming him. He finally confronted Valeth in a private meeting room, the doors sealed for privacy. "Something's happening," he said. "I can feel it." Valeth did not deny it. "My species is adapting." "To what?" he asked, though he already knew. "To you." "That's not fair," Elias said. "I didn't earn this." "Earning is irrelevant," she replied. "The bond does not care for hierarchy." "Your people could destabilize the entire region," he said, "because of me." "They will not allow harm to come to you," Valeth said calmly. "Stability is secondary." "That's exactly what scares everyone," Elias said. She studied him. "Does it scare you?" He hesitated. "Yes and no." That answer surprised him. Before Valeth could respond, the station shook slightly. A mild tremor, barely enough to register. Elias frowned. "What was that?" Valeth's eyes darkened. "External maneuvering." Minutes later, an emergency message spread across the station. Unauthorized vessels had exited faster than light space just outside the perimeter. Not a full invasion. Not an accident. A message followed shortly after, delivered through official channels. A coalition of minor powers demanded that Elias Cade be placed under protective custody for the safety of the galaxy. Elias stared at the message, heart pounding. "Protective custody," he repeated. "That's kidnapping with better words." "They believe separation will weaken the bond," Valeth said. "And will it?" She did not answer immediately. That silence was enough. Station security arrived soon after, polite and nervous. They asked Elias to come with them temporarily. Elias refused. "I'm not a criminal," he said, "and I won't be treated like a weapon." The lead officer looked uncomfortable. "This isn't my call." Valeth stepped forward. "You will leave," she said. The officers froze. Not because she raised her voice, but because something ancient and absolute filled the room. Their instruments began to glitch. Lights dimmed slightly. They left. Within hours, the station council declared a lockdown. Diplomats argued. Messages flew between systems. No one wanted to be the one responsible for triggering a disaster. Then the attempt came. It happened during a routine transit corridor, one Elias had walked 100 times before. The lights flickered. Gravity shifted just enough to throw him off balance. Hidden emitters activated, forming a containment field around him. The abductors moved fast, faces hidden, equipment advanced. They did not get far. Space itself seemed to fold as ships dropped out of nowhere. Precision strikes disabled the abductors without explosive force. The containment field collapsed like it had never existed. Valeth appeared at Elias' side seconds later, unharmed, her glow blazing brighter than he had ever seen. Around them, the station trembled, not from damage, but from power being carefully held back. Elias was shaking. "They tried to take me." "Yes," she said. "Your people." "They are responding," Valeth said. Outside the station, fleets formed perfect patterns. Communications networks belonging to the abductors collapsed. Supply routes failed. Leadership vessels lost navigation. No worlds burned. No cities fell. Everything simply stopped working. The message sent across the galaxy was clear without being spoken. "Do not touch the bonded." Elias watched the aftermath from a viewport, stunned by the quiet efficiency. "You didn't declare war." "We did not need to," Valeth replied. Fear spread faster than violence ever could. Emergency summits were called. Accusations flew. Some blamed humans. Some blamed Valeth's species. Some blamed Elias directly, calling him a destabilizing influence. Elias listened to it all, sick with guilt. "This is my fault," he said to Valeth one night. "People could get hurt because of me." Valeth turned to face him fully. "No, they choose their actions. You are not responsible for others' fear." "But you're changing," he said softly. "Your people are changing." "Yes," she agreed. "Because of humans?" he asked. "Because of you," she corrected, "and what you represent." She explained how her species had begun to observe humans more closely. How they saw humans mourn together, celebrate together, protect strangers without obligation. how the bond had opened something they had long sealed away. Your species accepts emotional risk, Valeth said. Ours avoided it. And now, Elias asked. Now we understand its value. The council eventually demanded Elias appear before them, not as a prisoner but as a participant. The chamber was vast, filled with beings of every shape and form. Elias felt very small walking into the center. Valeth stood beside him, silent but present. They asked questions, hard ones. Was humanity using the bond as leverage? No. Was Elias willing to separate for peace? No. Did humans understand the danger they posed? Yes, and they accepted it. Elias spoke simply, honestly. About choice, about connection, about how humans did not bond to control but to care. Some listened, some did not, but all of them noticed one thing. For the first time in recorded history, Valeth's species allowed another being to stand beside them as an equal, not above. Not below, beside. When the session ended, the galaxy felt different, not safer, not calmer, but changed. Elias returned to his quarters exhausted, mind racing. Valeth followed, stopping at the doorway. This path will not be easy, she said. Elias met her gaze. Humans aren't known for choosing easy paths. A faint warmth touched her expression. Not a smile, but something close. Far beyond the station, ancient minds adjusted their priorities. Fleets repositioned. Doctrines were rewritten, not for conquest, but for one fragile, stubborn human who had reminded the galaxy that caring deeply was not weakness. It was power. The galaxy did not calm down after the council session. It grew quieter but not peaceful. Silence replaced shouting, and that silence carried weight. Elias felt it everywhere. When he walked through the station, conversation stopped. Some beings looked at him with fear, others with curiosity, a few with respect that made him uncomfortable. He was still the same person, still the same human who liked quiet meals and old earth music, but the space around him had changed. He had become a point around which things moved. Valeth stayed close now, not because Elias asked, but because the bond demanded it. She did not hover or command. She simply existed near him like a steady presence that never left. Her people had not withdrawn their fleets. They had not advanced either. They waited. Waiting, Elias learned, could be more frightening than action. Another summit was called, larger than before. This time, it was not just about Elias or Valeth. It was about the future. Species that had avoided humans now demanded meetings. Others warned that humanity was too dangerous to remain unchecked. A few quietly asked how to build relationships like humans did. Elias was invited again, though the word invited felt strange when entire star systems were watching. Before the summit, Elias stood alone in his quarters, staring at a small hologram of Earth. Blue-green, fragile home. I never wanted this, he said quietly. Valeth stood behind him. Wanting is not required for responsibility. He turned to her. Do you ever regret it, the bond? She considered the question carefully. No, that was fast, Elias said. I regret the fear it caused others, she said. I do not regret you. Those words settled deep inside him. The summit chamber was more crowded than ever. The air vibrated with tension. Elias could feel it in his chest, like a held breath. A senior council member spoke first. This situation cannot continue as it is. Elias raised an eyebrow. Because it's inconvenient. Because it's unstable, the council member replied. One human cannot be allowed to influence a species capable of reshaping the galaxy. Elias took a slow breath. I'm not influencing anyone, I'm just existing. That is the problem, another voice said. Your existence triggers disproportionate responses. Valeth stepped forward. Our responses are appropriate, she said calmly. Threats were made, we answered. Your answers rewrite power balances, the council said. Yes, Valeth agreed. So did the discovery of faster-than-light travel. So did first contact. Change is not a crime. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Elias realized then that this was not really about fear of Valeth's species. It was fear of humans. A smaller species spoke up, one that had long lived under the shadow of stronger neighbors. Humans bond with us, they said. They help without asking what they gain. Another added, they mourn our dead as if they were their own. A larger power interrupted sharply. And now that behavior has spread to a dominant species. That should concern everyone. Elias stepped forward before Valeth could respond. You're right, he said. It should concern you, the chamber quieted. Humans don't measure worth by power, Elias continued. We measure it by connection, by who stands with us when things are hard. He looked around the room. We don't bond once. We bond again and again, friends, families, crews. Worlds, a council member asked coldly, and what happens when one of those bonds is threatened? Elias did not hesitate. We protect it. Valeth's glow bright and steady and calm. That is what scares you, Elias said. Not our strength, not our numbers. The fact that once we care, we don't stop. Silence followed, not angry silence, thinking silence. Valeth's species then did something no one expected. They made a declaration. They would open themselves, slowly, carefully, but fully. They would allow bonding, not as an accident, not as a forbidden flaw, but as a chosen path. Humans would not be the only ones they bonded with, but they would be the first. The chamber erupted. Some protested. Some demanded safeguards. Some walked out. Elias felt dizzy. You're changing everything, he whispered to Valeth. Yes, she said, because everything was too small before. The weeks that followed were filled with adjustment. Human crews began serving alongside Valeth's people. Training was tense at first. Different instincts, different habits, but humans adapted. They always did. They learned when to speak and when to listen. Valeth's people learned when silence hurt more than words. There were mistakes, misunderstandings, moments of fear, but there was no retreat. Elias remained a liaison, though the title felt outdated. He was no longer a bridge. He was proof that bridges could become foundations. One night, standing at a viewport, Elias watched two ships depart together, one human, one alien, flying in perfect formation. Do you think the galaxy will forgive us? He asked. Valeth stood beside him. Forgiveness is irrelevant. That sounds like something your species would say, Elias replied. She turned to him. It is also something your species practices. He smiled faintly. We forgive a lot. But we also remember. So do we, she said. Elias thought of the future then, not in terms of wars or councils, but in shared meals, mixed crews, children who would grow up seeing difference as normal. He had not chosen to be important, but he chose what came next. And the galaxy, whether it liked it or not, would move forward with humanity at its side, not because humans were the strongest, but because they were the ones who stayed. Once a human bonds, they do not let go. The galaxy had learned that lesson, and it would never forget it.